Hello, good evening and salam Malaysia Madani. You're watching Malaysia Tonight with me, SAHIH Samsudin. Prime Minister Dato Sri Anwar Ibrahim today announced that the Cabinet has agreed for the government to contribute up to 1 billion ringgit per year for the duration of 10 years to the Federal Land Development Authority, Felda. Dato Sri Anwar is also the Finance Minister said that a large part of the restructuring plans involve reducing Felda's debt with financial institutions.
Ini permulaan yang baik supaya peneroka yakin. Peneroka yakin bahawa kita tegas dalam bidang ini. Felda ini punya sejarah gemilang. Datuk Seri Sabri sebut peranan marhum Tun Abdul Razak, anak Pahang dan negarawan Melayu dan Malaysia yang kita banggakan. Buat satu rancangan, pinjam dari Bank Dunia, buka Felda, beri ruang pada anak-anak Melayu, keluarga Melayu yang paling miskin. Dia beri tempat. Cita-cita murni dan memberikan manfaat yang besar kepada jumlah besar rakyat. Jutaan orang dari awal sampai sekarang yang mendapat faedah dan manfaat. Tetapi kalau tidak diurus dengan baik, kalau kita izinkan pembaziran, amalan melabur ikut senang hati, ikut pandangan dan sogokkan kawan-kawan peniaga, inilah jadinya sekarang. Sehingga kerajaan terpaksa menampung 8.3 bilion untuk melupuskan hutang peneroka-peneroka. Saya lakukan itu kerana peneroka itu keluarga kita. Dan saya mahu keluarga Felda itu merasakan kerajaan ini kerajaan saudara.
Speaking at the Felda Settlers Day at the Malaysia Agro Exposition Park Serdang, MIPS today, the Prime Minister also vowed to resolve the abandoned housing projects issue for the second generation of Felda farmers. Research firms expect Bank Negara Malaysia (BNM) to keep the overnight policy rate OPR unchanged at 3.0% for the rest of 2023. The outlook was in view of the anticipation for growth and inflation to moderate in the second half of the year. CGS-CIMB Securities Sdn Bhd believe the balance of risk to growth is now tilting towards the downside, with the likelihood of a global slowdown appearing more pronounced than previously expected, especially given the muted impact from China's reopening. It said the recent softening in exports might shift BNM's narrative towards being more neutral, at least until exports start to show signs of improvement. Similarly, Maybank Investment Bank Berhad projected OPR would be capped at 3.0% with cautiously constructive view on growth and inflation. Meanwhile, Public Investment Bank Berhad expects BNM to adopt a cautious approach, closely monitoring significant developments in central bank policies. It said in the event that Malaysia's domestic economy exceeds expectations, it is not implausible for the central bank to consider optimizing its monetary tools by gradually normalizing the statutory reserve requirement to 3.00% in the first half of 2024. The government will review the public service salary scheme nationwide, and the matter will be discussed at the cabinet meeting next week. Prime Minister Dato Sri Anwar Ibrahim said the decision to review the salary scheme was made due to the fact that salary adjustments for civil servants had not been made for quite a long time now, as the last review of the salary scheme was conducted in 2013.
Saya ingat wajar kita berikan pertimbangan walaupun terikat dengan kekangan kewangan yang ada, tetapi saya fikir dengan sedikit perubahan yang ada kita boleh cari jalan supaya dapat kita beri pertimbangan.
He said this after delivering his message to Negeri Sembilan civil servants today, which was also attended by Menteri Besar Datuk Sri Aminuddin Harun and Chief Secretary to the Government Tan Sri Muhammad Zuki Ali. Hungary has offered Malaysia to use the European country as Malaysia's agro-product gateway to the European Union. The offer was made by Hungary's Agricultural Minister Dr. István Nagy to Agricultural and Food Security Minister Datuk Sri Muhammad Sabu during their bilateral talks in Budapest. According to a statement issued by the Office of the Minister of Agriculture and Food Security, both ministers held talks on proposed bilateral cooperation in the field of agriculture, particularly market access, modern agriculture and research for mutual benefit. Datuk Sri Muhammad and Dr. Nagy during their meeting also signed a Memorandum of Understanding in Agricultural Cooperation in a concerted effort to strengthen bilateral ties and collaboration in the field of agriculture. Elaborating further, Datuk Sri Muhammad said the MOU would be an opportunity to explore new market access for Malaysia's agricultural products to improve the agricultural balance of trade between the two countries. The Domestic Trade and Cost of Living Ministry (KPDN) is making efforts to put Perbadanan Nasional Berhad (Pernas) back under the minister's purview in order to reduce confusion in coordinating the franchise industry. Its Minister, Datuk Sri Salahuddin Ayub, said he sent a letter to Prime Minister Datuk Sri Anwar Ibrahim early this year and held discussion with the Entrepreneur Development and Cooperative Ministry on this matter.
Saya serahkan kebijaksanaan itu kepada Kabinet, terutama kepada Yang Berhormat Perdana Menteri. Ya, dia pun faham bahawa sememangnya KPDN kementerian yang paling sedikit agensi. Kami hanya ada 3 sahaja. MyCC, MyPo dan juga SSM. 3 sahaja. Jadi kalau dapat Pernas itu dikembalikan kepada matlamat asal dan objektif asal, itu sangat membantu untuk kita terus menjadikan bidang franchise ini sesuatu yang memberikan kesan langsung kepada usahawan kita.
For now, acts related to franchising that include registration are under the supervision of KPDN, whereas training and guidance related to franchise development come under KUSKOP. On the development of the franchise industry thus far, the Minister said his team is targeting a sales value of 30 billion ringgit in the industry before year end. Proton Holdings Berhad has formalized strategic partnerships with 3 e-bidding companies EBCs to refine the disposal process of trade-in cars for customers. By collaborating with EBCs, namely My Two Cars Sdn Berhad, MUV Marketplace Sdn Berhad and Kasam Sdn Berhad, the national car maker has taken a significant step forward towards delivering a faster and more efficient way for customers to own new cars. Proton Deputy Chief Executive Officer Roslan Abdullah said by leveraging their expertise in e-commerce and auction platforms, the EBCs offer its customers a seamless and reliable solution for disposing of their trade-in cars while also receiving competitive trade-in values. Proton's partnership with EBCs will enable customers to send their vehicles for auction through a user-friendly online platform. Through a fair and open auction system, customers will be able to receive competitive trade-in values for their vehicles. The production and sales for Perusahaan Automobil Kedua Sdn Berhad or Perodua have increased by 17% and 13.6% respectively for the first half of the year 2023. Commenting further through a statement release, the local car maker said its production grew to 153,813 vehicles in the first 6 months, compared with 131,641 units made in the same period of 2022. Top seller between January and June were the Beza with a total of 40,555 units registered, followed by the Perodua Myvi at 32,319 units and the Perodua Axia at 28,199 units. President and Chief Executive Officer Datuk Sri Zainal Abidin Ahmad said the higher production and sales performances were due to better supply of parts as well as improved production efficiency at its manufacturing plant. Perodua is on track to meet its 330,000 production and 314,000 registration targets as we will further improve on its operational efficiencies. The next of kin of two victims of the water surge tragedy at Jeram Air Putih in Kemaman are eligible for Social Security Organisation SOCSO benefits. Human Resources Minister V. Sivakumar said checks found that the victims were SOCSO contributors and that the agency had visited their next of kin.
Dua adalah pencarum dan pihak perkeso telah mengambil semua tindakan untuk membuat pembayaran.
Last Saturday, 10 individuals, including a family of 9 who had gone on a picnic at the Air Putih waterfall, were swept away by a water surge, and 9 bodies have been found so far. China urges concrete actions from the US to improve trade ties. That and more coming up in our foreign segment. Stay tuned. U.S. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen today called for market reforms in China and urged direct lines of communication for the healthy development of bilateral economic and trade ties between the two nations. Yellen, who arrived in Beijing yesterday, spoke at a meeting with the U.S. companies doing business in China, adding that regular exchanges could help both countries monitor economic and financial risks. Reading from a prepared speech, Yellen made remarks to the American Chamber of Commerce in China, AMCHAM, after what a Treasury official called substantive talks with former Chinese economist Zhao Liuhe, a close confidant of President Xi Jinping, and outgoing top Chinese central banker Yi Gang. She is slated to meet with Premier Li Qiang later. Yellen's trip is part of a flurry of visits aimed at calming tensions between Washington and Beijing that escalated after the U.S. military shot down a Chinese government balloon over the United States and amid increasing strains over export controls. Following the arrival of U.S. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen for a 4-day visit to Beijing, China's Ministry of Finance said today that it expects the United States to take tangible steps towards fostering a favorable economic and trade environment between the two countries. Yellen's visit is seen as the latest step to implement the important consensus reached by the two heads of state of China and the United States at the 2022 G20 Bali summit, with the aim of strengthening bilateral communications and exchanges in the financial field. An official from the ministry said China-US economic and trade relations are mutually beneficial in nature and there will be no winners in trade wars or decoupling and breaking the chain. Yellen is expected to meet with senior Chinese officials, and the two sides are scheduled to hold talks on economic and trade issues, China-US relations, among others. Her visit, which runs through Sunday, comes just weeks after US Secretary of State Antony Blinken visited China. Coming out in sports, BM inks MOU to safeguard shuttlers' mental health. The Badminton Association of Malaysia, BAM, has started a new partnership with the University of Cyberjaya, UOC, to help national shuttlers to improve their personal growth, mental well-being and professional development. BAM Deputy President 1, Dato' V. Subramaniam, said UOC would assist the association to establish a mental health unit for the benefit of around 120 shuttlers based at Academy Badminton Malaysia, ABM, in Bukit Kiara.
This is, can I answer?
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
This is actually part and parcel of all sports, okay? It is also our responsibility, as I've mentioned in my speech earlier, that, you know, developing young children are brought away from their parents, from their home, and they are here from the age of 13 years old. So there are times where the children, the younger players, will need some kind of counseling, assisting them, in guiding them in all aspects, not only in sports, in science, also relevant to their family environment.
The university would also help BAM in providing mental health awareness programs, psychoeducation, and improve players' well-being and resilience. And now we move on to our new addition to our bulletin, On the Table. Over to you, Shuaida.
All right. Thank you, SAHIH. Yes, as we speak today, it's a very special day because we are introducing to you our brand new segment, as SAHIH said just now earlier. It's called On the Table. And this segment, we will be talking and discussing about things such as the economy as well as foreign affairs. Now, to begin for today, we have bring to you today a distinguished guest. Before I introduced our guest for today, I'd like to give you briefly notify of his short biography. He is a senior research fellow from the Malaysian Institute of Economic Research, or the so-called MIER. Our fellow guest here is also a visiting fellow at the Crawford School of Public Policy of the Australian National University. He is also a member of the Academic Advisory Council of Economic Research, Institute for ASEAN and East Asia, also something that is very good, and we look forward to our guest today. Now, I introduce you today Dr. Shankran Nambiar. Thank you for being with us on our first edition of On the Table. We're going to be talking generally first about the economy now. As we all know, what is your opinion about the general economy, especially things that are faced by the people right now? We often talked about the cost of living. What is your thought on this, Doctor?
Well, first of all, let me thank you. It's a great pleasure and definitely a privilege to be on the first edition of this program. Thanks. Yes, I think the economy as it stands now, there are lots of bright stars out in the horizon. You find that unemployment figures have been going down. I think that's wonderful. The inflation figures have also been moderating, and inflation is less of a problem today than it was couple of months back. So I think that's also great news. And the cost of food has been going down. Food items like the cost of meat and vegetables, I think, have also been moderating, which would be which is great news for households. And all of this, I think, adds an air of positivity to the economy. Certainly welcome. And we also find that there are other indicators which buoy up the economy. For instance, the investment figures are looking very good. FDI has been looking good for some time now. And there are a number of big infrastructure projects which are coming up. And I think that too will boost demand, domestic demand, and consequently, I think you'll find that household incomes would most likely be going up, which would help boost growth.
And I believe all of this conditioned, it's happening due to the fact that Bank Negara Malaysia has taken an efficient move to make sure that the inflation are definitely in their hand. They didn't spike drastically to help ease the burden, the cost of living. As we know, yesterday, Bank Negara Malaysia has made a decision to maintain the OPR at 3%, citing a few other reasons. To name a few, monetary policy stance is slightly accommodative, as well as remains supportive of the economy. But this is still, as we compare to the pre-pandemic season, it is still lower as before, because previously it was 3.25 and now it goes at 3%. What is your opinion? Do you think that BNM can announce, maybe not in the near future, but sometime soon, to increase the OPR to help the economy? Or do you think this is the best way for the BNM to maintain the OPR to help with the cost of living of the people?
I think as it stands now, I think BNM has done the right thing to maintain the OPR at 3%. It gives some time to pause and watch what's happening. There is no need to rush into a rate hike, and I think in that respect they've done the right thing. The inflation figures are less of a concern now than they used to be, and that's probably one reason why Bank Negara has maintained the rates at 3%. So it might be a good thing to hold it at 3%. Also, very useful in the sense that it reduces the burden on households. Otherwise, if you had a continuous rate hike, the burden on borrowers, whether it be mortgages or credit cards, would go up. And I think this gives some respite to households.
But respite, we can all agree that this could be temporary, because when we talk about the economy, there's always uncertainties, right? Things are happening. We have an international factors, geopolitical factors that will also affect the inflation, the OPR. So what is your thoughts on this? You know, those things, those factors are beyond our control. And we as a citizen, the only thing that we can shout is that how hard life is at the moment. But those factors are uncontrollable. We can't touch that, despite having all of this policy helping us. So what is your opinion and the thoughts on this?
I think, yes. I mean, you're right. I mean, there are some issues that are beyond our control. For instance, geopolitical tensions. There's not a great deal that we can do about it. The US is not through with combating inflation. They still haven't reached their 2% target. I think they have been successful in bringing it down from 5-something% to about 4%. So they have made progress with combating inflation, but the story is not over yet. So there is a possibility that they might raise in the future. They might need to see a rate hike, but one would expect perhaps one or at most two rate hikes in the US if they're not able to handle inflation. There is, of course, the odd possibility or the possibility certainly does loom of worsening geopolitical tensions and the kind of impact that is likely to have on countries around the world. You could, for instance, have a worsening of relations between the US and China. It's something that cannot entirely be ruled out. Nonetheless, I think we are well prepared to handle those challenges. I think the government has, has very wisely tried to, or is trying to roll out its mega infrastructure projects. It's trying to speed up these projects, and I think you will see the benefits of the efficient and swift rolling out of these projects. So yes, while you do have the threats, the challenges, I think there are things on the bright side too. You could expect, for instance, tourism numbers going up. That would certainly be a boost to our domestic economy. And I think you could also expect the economy to be very much domestic demand-driven. So I think we have sufficient resources, and I think we have the right set of policies to be able to handle whatever negative outcomes that might come up. And don't forget also that budget 2024 is round the corner. The Prime Minister has very decisively, very clearly indicated that he's committed to distributional issues. So I think we can expect to look forward not to fantastic growth rates over the coming months, but I think reasonable, acceptable growth rates, and we definitely will fall very much within the 4 to 5% range. My guess is we probably would tend closer to 5% than to 4%.
But Doctor, despite having our inflation rate quite stagnant for the past few months, the ringgit as compared to the dollar is around 4.6 ringgit, right? So how do we correlate between the ringgit Malaysia and the policy, and when do we see our ringgit at some point will be strengthened again?
I think too much is being made about the ringgit getting weak. I mean, I think that there are two aspects here. I mean, there is, of course, the long-term view, and in the sense that if you looked at the USD ringgit numbers, and if you looked at them from, let's say, 1985 right up to now, yes, the ringgit has, over a long period of time, kind of been slipping down. So that is the long-term trend. But I think if you looked at what has been happening over the last couple of weeks, yes, and that is something that we couldn't have gotten out of. I mean, there have been external pressures which have resulted in the kind of spike that you are seeing now. That part, I mean, I think once more stability comes into the global forces, etc., you are, and whatever uncertainties there might be domestically, I think that component is likely to moderate. Of course, something will have to be done about the long-term downward trend of the ringgit, and I think that is being addressed in a number of ways, and I think those kinds of structural changes that we need to look at, I'm quite sure that more attention will be paid to them, to those factors, starting with the budget 2024, and then there's of course the industrial master plan, the 13th Malaysia plan, which will have to be looked at, which is being reviewed, and I think that will be aligned in a fashion that will address these structural issues.
I believe, Doctor, we will need an ample time to discuss mainly about this economy. It's a huge sector that we can talk about, but unfortunately, it's the only time that we have at the moment. Ladies and gentlemen, there we bring to you Dr. Shankar Nambiar, a Senior Research Fellow from the Malaysian Institute of Economic Research, or MIER, in our brand new segment for Malaysia tonight called On the Table. Please look forward next week. On Friday, we're going to bring another distinguished guest to discuss more on this topic. I'm Julai Arifin. Thank you for watching and have a pleasant evening. Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Saudara, bermula 7 Julai 2023 tepat jam 12.30 hari, pelajar-pelajar boleh menyemak keputusan di UPU online dan nama persoalannya, ke manakah mereka selepas daripada SPM? Itu akan kita bincangkan pada hari ini, dan juga kekurangan bukan penghalang merupakan topik kedua yang kita akan bawa